Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I'd love to welcome each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Tuesday evening to join us tonight. We definitely really appreciate it. An unknown person once said that entrepreneurship is living the beginning of your life like most people won't, so that you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. I'm Ziggy Mkhize, and welcome to the Dr. Richard Maponya, University of Johannesburg Annual Lecture for the year 2016. I'd like to say thank you to all our guests for joining us tonight. I believe it was Derek Drudrick that once said that in order to predict the future, you need to create the future. And I believe that that is fitting for the topic that we're exploring tonight, which is developing the South African entrepreneurial ecosystem. Now, I assume most of you are either involved in entrepreneurship, you are an entrepreneur, you teach entrepreneurs, you mentor entrepreneurs, or you're married to one and you're just constantly looking at them like, what is going on? But in some way or another, I think we can all agree that entrepreneurship is key to changing our country and our society, and being able to do good business and change communities by doing good business is one thing that South Africa could probably put in its back pocket, put in its front pocket and run with it. If we have the opportunity to do the best that we can and to really utilize this opportunity, I believe we can make a great country out of South Africa. There's a huge youth potential. The energy is great. There's so much opportunity to make greatness happen. So as we get together tonight, as we speak about entrepreneurship and explore the topic, regardless of which angle and which sphere you're involved in the topic, I hope you'll find tonight's discussions to be beneficial and that you'll enjoy the networking amongst everybody else that is here tonight. Just as a courtesy, if there's a fire, I don't think there will be, or any other kind of emergency, just run the stairs and go back out, you'll be fine. And the bathrooms are out by the entrance as well. So for our first guest for tonight, I would like for you to please help me welcome the professor. I always say, because in my mind I'm like, we're best friends, but then I remember we're not. The Executive Dean for the Faculty of Management here at the University of Johannesburg, to welcome you all and give you an address, is Professor Daneel van Lill.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and what an absolute pleasure to welcome you tonight to the University of Johannesburg, and especially to this joint venture between the Richard Maponya Institute for Entrepreneurship and Skills Development and the UJ Faculty of Management. And I have to admit, being welcomed by Nsiki this evening is an absolute privilege. As you know, she was the first princess in the 2015 Miss South Africa competition. And I just want to stress the point that UJ graduates don't only have brains, but they have beauty as well. And maybe I shouldn't stress the point that she's a graduate of the Faculty of Management. Tonight we have a wonderful collection of people here tonight, so we thank you for your presence here. And this time of the year just reminds me, when I saw a couple of very familiar faces tonight, I just thought how quickly the past year has gone by, and especially for universities. But it's wonderful to have you tonight, and it's my honor tonight to, first of all, I'd like to welcome our guest here tonight, our speaker tonight, Tope Tugun, who will address us tonight and share wisdom with us. We never stop learning, and thank you for sharing your wisdom tonight with us, and we are looking forward to hear more from you. We also are tonight honored by the presence of the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Mr. Herman Mashaba. Mr. Mayor, welcome here tonight. I met him a couple of years ago, which is around about 2011, 2012, at our Soweto campus, one evening when he spoke to our students about entrepreneurship and having a big dream and making things work and what it takes to make things work. And at the end of the day, night evening, he signed his book, Black Like Me, which I took home and put on my shelf. And actually, I first read it and then I put it on my shelf. And when you became executive mayor, I called all my sons together and said, hey, look, I'm also counted among the important people. So that was such a pleasure. So, and may I wish you and all of us, under your leadership, the very best and wisdom to you. I'd also like to welcome tonight Nandi Mayatula Kosa, the MEC for Social Development, And then we're also honored tonight by His Excellency, the Ambassador of Nigeria, to support his countrymen. And I'd like to welcome His Excellency Martins N. Chobam, the Ambassador of Nigeria. Then also the representatives from the Brazilian Embassy. You'll recall that last year we had a Brazilian speaker as well, and the Botswana Embassy, a country with whom our university has very close relationships and with whom we are very proud to be associated with. Ravi Naidu, the Executive Director of the City of Joburg. Ravi, as always, thank you very much for your incredible support. It is always a pleasure working with you because he's got a wonderful sense of humor. And then Humaira Muketsi Chumnara, forgive me, I haven't brought my glasses along, that's kind of why I'm trying to focus a little bit. Transnet Executive Manager, Dr. Tabu Mashongwane, Director National Skills Authority, Dr. Kula Mabata, Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation, Pule Mekwena, the Executive CEO of Black Business Council, Eric Kwandiu and Ntlunga Nkosi, representing the Small Business Enterprise Finance Agency, Shakil Uri, Director of the Cooperative Education at DUT, Makele Ngwenga, Makale Nkwanya Limited, Don Alloway and his wife Rosie from ENS Africa. This is a South African BE law firm. For those of you who don't know them yet, which I doubt, Tsolofelo Kupedi, Managing Director of the Youth Development Institute of South Africa, and the directors of the staff and the Richard Maponya Institute, and then the Richard Maponya family, and our very, very special grandfather of the Faculty of Management, Ntati Mulo, Richard Maponya. And there's no ways in which you speak in this thing unless you've greeted the great man first. It is wonderful to have you with us again, sir.
Thank you very much.
As you know, Dr. Richard Maponya is a UJ alumnus, and the Faculty of Management conferred an honorary doctorate on him for his remarkable life journey in 2011. And he serves as a living example for our students, and we are very proud to say that we actually know him personally. So I'd like to share with you tonight, in concluding, I'm not very good at making speeches, but I'd like to share with you a story and a wish for the upcoming festive season. And it's a story about a man who started a company, and the company became very successful. And after about a couple of decades, he decided, well, you know what, it is time for me to retire. But who will be my successor? So he called all his senior staff together and said, guys, I'm planning to retire by the end of this year. But I would like to put all of you to the test, and the one who succeeds will be my successor. So I'd like you, here's a whole handful of seeds. I'd like each one of you to choose a seed, and I'd like you to grow the seed, and after 6 months we'll compare the results. And may the best person win. And everybody picked a seed and took it home, got pots, potting soil, fertilizer, you name it. And after about a week, the tea room conversation started to change, saying, well, you know what, mine is showing its first leaf. Mine is kind of now almost at the 2-leaf stage. Except one man called Richard Maponya, and it doesn't bear any resemblance to anybody present here tonight. But his seed didn't want to germinate. And he thought, oh my goodness, what will I do? And he took the seed, washed it off, put it in different soil, watered it again, and waited, but nothing happened. After about 2 months, the conversation became even more fierce in the tea room. People saying, well, you know, mine is about this high. It is definitely a grandiflora Ntsiki. How do you like that one? And others said, no, mine is now actually at about 2 meters high and starting to show the first buds. And so the competition has increased. But in the case of Richard, his seed just didn't want to germinate, and he was getting rather anxious. Then after about 6 months, everybody brought their plants to the tea room in this company, and it looked like a hothouse. The most incredible exotic flowers, and here on the one side sat Richard with a pot with nothing happening in it. So the CEO walked around and chatted to everybody about their wonderful achievements and the wonderful plants and how well it looked. And eventually he walked to the stage and said, well, you know what? I know exactly who my successor should be. It will be Richard Maponya. And the crowd just turned silent. How is this possible? They said, well, guys, actually, when I handed out your seeds, I boiled them the previous evening, and there's no ways in which they could have germinated. So you see, the moral of the story is that Richard Maponya stuck to the truth. And what exactly is the truth? And isn't this the question that we all search for nowadays and that we ponder so much about? And if you want to contemplate the future, the best place to start is with the truth. To make whatever you've got, to take what you've got and make the very best of it. And isn't this part of the journey that we are going to share tonight? And this brings me to the blessing that I'd like to share with you tonight. And it comes in the form of one of my favorite poems called Invictus. And I'd like to share with you the last 4 lines in which the poet reflects on life and how difficult it is. And that none of us have got away without scars. And in this poem, the poet concludes and he says, regardless of how narrow the gate, regardless of how scribbled the scroll, I'll be the master of my fate, I'll be the captain of my soul. And with this, I'd like to wish you a formidable year end. And I hope that you'll be able to have time to feel the wind in your face, to feel the rain in your hair, to hear the laughter of those that you love around you, to feel at peace, so that we can all be the masters of our fate, be the captains of our soul. Thank you.
Thanks once again to Prof Daneel van Lill. I think he exudes the awesomeness of what UJ is, and that's why sometimes I need to remind myself that he is actually a professor. But he has a very dad thing about him. If you ever just speak to him, he has a very cool dad thing about him. Yes. So one of the things I always find very fascinating about entrepreneurship that I think people forget often is that we all use medical aids, we all go to hospitals, we go to clinics, we go to shops, we buy things, we consume. And I did logistics as my honors, and so I know the process of getting a product from the fields to what you're wearing today or what you're sitting on. And a lot goes into it, right? And often I think what we take for granted is that before it became the shirt that you're wearing, the glasses that you're wearing, the shoes that you have on, the building that we're in, it was an idea. Somebody was sitting around with a friend maybe, minding their own business in the garage, having a braai, drinking a beer or wine or tea, whatever it may be, and said, you know what, I think we can build buildings. Or I think we can become the best X. I think we can create a wonderful insurance scheme. And so these things happen. And so we drive into cities and we move closer to cities so we can be closer to work. And we have these multi-corporations that are globally listed and on stock exchanges, and it's amazing and it's incredible. And we often forget that at the beginning of it all was just maybe 2 people that had an idea and the confidence to go for it. And so when I look and think of Dr. Richard Maponya and the Maponya family and the brand, for me it's one of those brands that we can look at and say, from the beginning, there was a guy who had an idea. And now we're here having a lecture named after him. And I mean, I don't know if people start out life planning that. You know, I don't think it happens haphazardly, but I do believe there's a certain level of dedication, there's a certain level of resistance, perseverance that one has to have in order to get there, you know, in order to create something. And there's a level of mindfulness around legacy that we need to have and to instill in society that creates awesome businesses and societies and people that allow us to have these kinds of interactions. And so with that, I would like to invite up Dr. I was calling you a doctor. Roy Maponya, who's the CEO of the Dr. Richard Maponya Institute for Skills and Entrepreneurship Development in South Africa, to welcome our keynote speaker. Please give him a round of applause. And you can put this in your pocket or hold it in your hand?
Yeah, put it on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ziggy has just introduced me, and my name is Roy, just to repeat. Professor van Lill has acknowledged the presence of our leaders, our distinguished guests here, and members of the diplomatic corps from other countries. I'd like to see protocol observed, and I'm not going to repeat all the names. The Dr. Richard Maponya annual lecture tonight is being delivered by a man who hails from a country where one does not have to look for entrepreneurship, but it can be seen in action on the streets of some of its major cities. His home country is often compared to South Africa, where it is believed that the entrepreneurial gene is not adequately spread out. On first glance, one would overlook him to deliver a lecture on entrepreneurship and skills development. However, it is the Dr. Richard Maponya Institute's contention that the very core of what is lacking in South Africa is what he specializes in, and that is learning. Our speaker tonight holds a master's degree in management learning, leadership from Lancaster University Management School in the UK. Is also an alumnus of the Lagos Business School and our very own University of Stellenbosch Business School. He is a fellow of the Learning and Performance Institute, as well as a fellow of the Chartered Management Institute and the Institute of Consulting in the United Kingdom. His work in learning focuses on critical thinking, coaching and mentoring, business acumen, leadership development, employability, and today's theme, entrepreneurship skills development. He is the founder and managing director of Accelerated Learning Systems Limited, a learning development consultancy which was established in 2004. As well as the founder of Clarity Education Limited in Johannesburg. It is particularly the work Clarity Education is doing in Southern Africa, especially in the development and deployment of solutions for employability and entrepreneurship skills in schools and higher education, which has drawn the Institute's interest. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, many of the shortcomings in the areas of skills development and entrepreneurship have been placed at the doors of our school system. The topic for tonight's lecture extends beyond the school system and includes the ease with which we can do business in our country. It is our belief at the Institute that it is never too late or never too early to start the learning process, However, even if the primary and higher education system delivered at the required level, the ecosystem does need to enable entrepreneurship. I am sure you are as eager as I am to hear what our guest lecturer, Mr. Tope Tugun, will share with us in developing the South African entrepreneurial ecosystem. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Mr. Tope Tugun.